What is up, everybody? Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Explain It podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Stephen Hunt.
And I'm Ingryd Hernandez.
And we have an awesome guest for you. We're going to be cutting this one just a little bit short this time because there was some scheduling conflicts. But
Otra vez.
That's I've been saying that for years. Yeah.
Not uno más corona. No, not that,
no,
Steven.
Esto no bueno. But without further ado, let's bring on our fantastic guest, Mr. Chino Mante.
Woo-hoo!
Hey,
What's
guys.
up, Chino?
Hello.
Hey.
How we all doing?
Look at that. Chino's at Disney World right now, guys.
I am so sorry, guys. I'm over here at the Premium Outlets Mall going into a meeting with two behavioral health centers. I apologize about the mix-up.
Oh, you're totally fine, man. So let us know. So do you have behavioral health issues? Is that why you're meeting with them, or what's going on there?
No. I don't think so. I don't know yet. But we are teaming up because they're figuring out how they can house more people. The problem that they have is they don't have enough housing, right? Just like most organizations. And what I can provide is obviously housing, because it's very easy for us to acquire these properties.
Absolutely. So help me out in understanding this too, because I do have experience with behavioral health. I've got some fantastic deals from behavioral health because there's been a lot going on in that industry, and it started off being an issue in Vegas, which I believe is your market, right? And so it was an issue in Vegas, and then it worked its way. People from Vegas moved all the way over to Arizona. A lot of operations moved out here. I took in a lot of those people, and then those people got in trouble too because they were doing incorrect billing and certain things like that. Are you seeing that start to lift up? Are you starting to see, because it felt like for a period of time, a year or two, like that industry was just like vanished, and now it's like almost like they're opening it back up. I'm seeing people talk about it more, so I'm curious.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. To a point where like there's already like a lot of new behavioral health centers that are opening up because of the need.
Okay.
I thought you were going to keep going.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
So what is the need then? In that case, like what do these people need? Why is it something that you're focusing on, and why is it a need?
So being in the forefront of this, like meaning going out there, right? Like sitting right next to a less fortunate, whether they're like coming out of tunnels, train tracks, or wherever they may be, right? Like behind the building, in between the alleys. I go talk to them. And a lot of times, they don't have a lot of resources. They do have a lot of resources. However, they're not very easy to reach to, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these behavioral health centers are not doing community outreach. So they do now, they go out there and meet these people. And the only way that we can help them is to put them through a behavioral and mental health. With that right there, they can then help them housing through that.
So what does that look like on your end then? So like, because obviously a lot of the people that watch this podcast, Chino, are going to be real estate investors. And I love that there's a purpose behind what you're doing. This is people that need help. This is people that need somebody to step in and raise their hand and be that willing person to say, I got a house, I got this, whatever the case may be. What is all that?
Sure.
What is that? What kind of drew you to this? And what does it look like from a real estate investment standpoint as well?
So if somebody is like struggling with their, let's just use a short-term rental property. I don't want to say a company's name because I don't want to get sued. So let's say it's not performing. Ingryd over here is like laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that it's not performing, right? You can reach out to me or someone like Ingryd, like who are in this space, like you of course, obviously you too as well as Steve, to rent it to us. We then turn around and do a sublease, right, with our connections. And one might think like, well, why can't I just do it myself, and go directly to them? Like, yeah, you can. You just gotta build a rapport. You know what I mean? They're not just gonna be in business with you just because you're an investor. You have to build those relationships. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of them have come to me and say, like, you know what? There's a lot of investors that reach out to us, and all they see is just dollar signs. Like, there's no more like purpose behind it. So they're also weeding people out.
Yeah. Yeah, because they can pay an elevated rental amount. I know a lot of people really try to milk that for everything they can. And my experience with doing behavioral health, too, Chino, I'll talk on this a little bit, is that I always try to keep it reasonable, right? I always wanted it to be something to where, hey, I'd rather, instead of charging you $5,000 a month like somebody else is trying to charge you for a 6, 7, 8 bedroom house, I'd rather just charge you $3,500 because you got me $1,000 more than market rent. And it's something that's more affordable, and you guys can stay here long term. It's a vision that we can all have together. And my personal experience, though, too, and I'm curious how you are vetting some of these companies as well, because in my personal experience, I have ran into situations where, unfortunately, the operator of those behavioral healths, they were bad apples. And I'm currently going through 3 evictions on 3 different properties of mine with the same behavioral health person because they just up and stopped paying recently and ended up thrashing the houses and all that kind of stuff. So I know there's risk involved with it. A lot of people try to make it seem like, oh, it's so easy and they take such good care of it. Everybody has roles and what they do, but obviously there's a difference between good, tenants in this field of it versus the bad ones. And unfortunately, I got a couple of the bad apples. How are you vetting that to make sure that those are the right people and that you're not running into the situation I just ran into?
So this is the part where I shout out my team, right? Tai Chi team. That would be Tiger, Michael Kim. Both are in Gators Sub 2 and Owners Club. And I have my business operator, Abe Orozco. All of which they do like, they're very vigilant when it comes to due diligence. Before I go to meetings, right? Whenever I tell them like, hey, I need you guys to vet this person with this company, they go ham. Wait, are you guys hearing me right now?
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. You went
Oh, okay.
ham, and I was just gonna ask what about the gravy, but yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Classic.
Yeah, so yeah, they go to town, like, like vetting people, right? Like, they do this for everything. It's not just, with potential partnerships with behavioral centers, but as well as like people that want to do $1 million deals with us, like on a fix and flip that could potentially be a $2.3 million deal, right? Michael came is like right on it. Like, hey bro, I need you to vet this person and his LLC, and then who is his affiliate. And then we found out that this person's actually have been doing multiple bankruptcies, right? On a lot of these deals. Because, not to sidetrack, from behavioral health, but to make a point that it's very important to have a solid team with you that have your back.
Mm-hmm.
You as a visionary, when you go out there and meet these people, right, and then close these deals, close your relationships, you need to have a solid team of integrators and operators. They know what to do when it comes to vetting people, right? Michael Kim, Tiger, and Abe, they're freaking amazing when it comes to doing that. So what they did was, like, they found out multiple things, red flags, right, on this individual. And then right away, right before I parked, Michael Kim was like, okay, now you know all the red flags. It's up to you. I'm like, thanks, bro. Got it. Got it from here. So the
Yeah,
same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing, whenever I meet these organizations. How legit are they?
yeah,
Right? How long have they been in the business? And it's not just behavioral health centers, right? We could also team up with nonprofit organizations, right? Like, we were going to partner up with a very young, new nonprofit organization that was hyper focused on housing young adults. Um, and then it turned out they didn't have any credibility, right? And I started asking them questions. Funny enough, because I had a personal meeting with them over here at Cheesecake Factory where I'm at. You guys see it?
Hey, look at that.
Yeah. Which is, kind of weird because I usually have my meeting at McDonald's. But
McDonald's,
anywho,
at 7
yeah,
a.m. Yes, we know
that's
your
right.
habits. That's right.
Right. So when I had a meeting with them, because I asked them, right? So, like, whenever I go into meetings with these organizations, I grill them because I need to know if we're in the same alignment. I need to know if they're in this to help the less fortunate, right? Like, what is your exact goals? So I asked these two youngins, because they're like, they could be my kids, right? They're like 20 years old. And asked them, like, so what happens, with the young adults that fall through the cracks, right? And they said, like, well, what do you mean? We're going to train them with life experience. Get them ready. I'm like, you didn't answer my question. What happens to them when they fall through the cracks? Where are they going to go? And then they said, you know what, Chino? We haven't even really thought about it. I'm like, bro, with all due respect, you come from foster care system. Did you not see your peers falling through the crack? And then he was like, well, yeah. Okay, so what's your solution? And they looked at each other. They're like, we don't know. I was like, all right. Well, I created a solution. After our phone call last night, my brain went to town. I call it the 4 stages of housing. Stage 1 is for young adults, right? Stage 2 is for independent living homes. Stage 3 is affordable housing, which is through Section 8, HUD-VASH, and any subsidies that they can find through nonprofit organizations and or cities and counties. Then stage 4 is the path to ownership. Shout out to our mentor, Pays More, because he's the one that taught me this. It's called lease option, right? So this is how it works out. With stage 1, they're only going to be taught about life experiences, and then you have to prepare them ahead. They're not going to be told about stage 2, not unless they're watching your podcast, guys, because you guys have an amazing podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So if they fall off, or some of them will fall off still, there's that safety net, which is stage 2, right? Because at this point, hopefully they already have their stuff together, right? They may have a part-time job, or if they don't have the part-time job, they may have, some fire that they just need some hand holding, right? Which what we've been doing with our veterans, especially the homeless veterans, right? We place them in stage 2 housing, right? So now with our young adults, once they're ready to move on to the next stage of their life, which is, you know what, I don't want to share my bedroom anymore. I want to have my own place. I'm like, okay, can you qualify to rent yet? Right? Do you have the credit score? Do you make twice or 3 times the rent? Right? Evictions, right? If you don't have that, great. Right? What about criminal background? Can you pass it? And if they say no to some of them, then obviously, they can't rent on their own. Unless there are some places that could take them in. The caveat with that is that the likelihood of them be placing in the hood is very high, right? What we're doing is not that. I will never be that type of investor that will try to buy a property in the hood. It's like you're helping a less fortunate, placing them in a building right next to their tent.
Mm-hmm.
That don't work for me. That's why there's independent living homes, suburban living homes, transitional living homes, and there's a thing that I call serene living. That's where I place my people. Serene living, it is a neighborhood that could encourage them to do something better, right? Or something out of their normalcy. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys can see me shaking my hand.
Yeah,
Oh, we
absolutely.
can.
Yeah.
And you make
We
a
fully agree.
1,000%. So one of our friends of the podcast, Kent if you guys ever want to go watch the previous podcast, that was exactly what he was mentioning before in the past, is that if you really want to influence and not just take advantage of people financially, but if you really want to influence people who need that level up sort of perspective, get them out of the environment that has influenced them there to make bad decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and get them into environments where they could be influenced to do better simply by peer pressure and being around other people who are, I'm going to say law-abiding citizens, but where the economic standard is higher. And there's a strong influence when you put folks who are used to D and C class neighborhoods, when you put them in B class, they do clean up pretty good. Like this is a concept Kent actually taught me, was like when you're doing like multifamily housing, for example, and you're trying to leverage the ability and the subsidies of like the taxes and stuff. If you direct some of that affordable housing grants that you can get to folks like that, but these are much nicer areas, that's how we actually help people start making better choices.
Totally.
And it doesn't even have to be that significant. And by the way, this is advice for anybody. If you're somebody trying to level up your own game, going into entrepreneurship and all of that? Why do you think we all love each other here? There's Chino, Steven, like we are all in a new environment or newer environment in our mentorship. Like we literally met each other through sub 2. We leveled up ourselves, and it's all a matter of getting in the right rooms and getting in the right spaces. Yeah.
Oh, 1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways that we can kind of control that a little bit from the investing perspective too, and something that I try to do, because I do a lot of Section 8 and I do a lot of affordable housing options. We obviously have a property management business as well. And I see what people are offering on those types of houses. Like if we go to affordable housing, it's the slumlordy type of people, right? It's not getting people out of their situation. It's people that say, how do I slap paint on this? And how do I keep my cost as low as possible? And how do I make as much money as possible on this? From an investment standpoint, I want everybody to be emotionally attached and proud of where they're living. So every house I put anybody in, and Ingryd knows this, is like fully renovated. We got quartz countertops. So it looks like it's been designed. You know what I mean? It looks like something that they would never be able to afford, probably a place that they've never dreamed that they could live in, quite frankly. And I want them to have that proudness within them to be like, this is where I live. So that way, yes, they have the right environment, they have the right people around them, and they're getting to see what the other side kind of looks like too. Like I could have something like this myself, and being able to, I love the idea of being able to kind of put them on that trajectory, that growth path of doing lease options and getting them into their own house eventually too. I think that's so cool that you came up with those steps.
I love how comprehensive you are, Chino. And let's back it up a little. Obviously, you are very much a leader in our investor community. And I'm just wondering, what drew you to focusing on helping the less fortunate and having so much heart in everything you do? Because it's something that like really translates. It's why I am so drawn to you, because I feel people who have those shared values, like they deserve a lot of success. So I'm wondering, like, oh, that's a weird alien finger. I'm wondering what drew you to doing this?
So I had to take a deep breath for this. So I used to be homeless myself. I've experienced it as a young adult, and then when I moved from San Jose, California to Vegas, I saw a huge need because that was 2002, and they had it worse here than in California, right? The heat, the extreme cold weather, right? And I'm like, I need to do something. But, during that time, I was young. I didn't have a lot of money. I was making $8 an hour, right? And then, like I have a very close relationship, with him. I'm just not religious, but like, him and I, we talk a lot. And I've asked him, two blessings, right? The first one was, yo, you think, you can hook me up with a Mazda 3? Because I see in the commercial, right? I'm like, that was my dream car, right? So like I was able to obtain it, right? And then I told him like, hey, bro, like I promise you, like I'll help anyone like, on the freeway who's stuck, right? Because I was stuck once and I didn't know how to fix my own tire. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I had to find out. I had to figure it out. So like, I would do that like for years, right? Because that's all I could afford. And then later on, I was like, yo, like I think I need to make more money to, like to give back more. I was like, I promise, I'll take care of your other kids. And he did. He got me into banquets, right? Like as a blessing. And then my financial status, from $8 an hour to, like, making six figures, through banquets just skyrocketed, right? Like to me, that was a lot of money, right? Like it still is. And I was like, okay, now I make more money. I have greater responsibilities. So I started, it's like, but I didn't make six figure right away, right? But I, like, it was a jump, right, from $8 to $14 an hour, and then plus gratuity, right? So I started packing sandwiches. I would hand them out with bottled water by myself, right? I did this for about a couple years until my friends cornered me, right? They're like, hey, like, what are you doing? How come you're not hanging out no more? Like, you used to hang out a lot. I'm like, well, because, like, I'm doing things. Oh, what is it? Right? So, like, I had to share that with them. So we're like, until last year, early last year, that's when I opened it up to investors, right? I'm like, because like Pace told me, it's like, you need to share what you do to the world, show it to them so that you can inspire others, So you can then help more people through the people that you're showing what your gifts are, right? So Pace and I, like, we have a lot of one-on-one conversations, right? I call him a private mastermind one-on-one with Pace, because every time he would come in Vegas, he would text me like, "Yo, like, I'm here in Vegas." I'm like, "Yeah, they pick you up in my Tacoma." So that right there, I didn't know how impactful it would be, right? Until I would get messages, and then people would, like, text me, give me a phone call, right? Like, "Hey, bro, like, because of your social media, I am now doing this in Tennessee. Because of your social media, I am now doing this in this state," right? Like, it's crazy. And if you guys go on my social media, especially my Facebook, because on Instagram you can pin 3 posts. On Facebook you can only pin 1 post. And there's Pace's face, right? And read the caption. That was posted on December 17, 2022. That was my Mount Everest. Before I even found out what Mount Everest was, is to help solve the homelessness issue nationwide. And that is just dream one out of 3 dreams.
That's
Sorry,
beautiful.
go
I
over
love
there.
that. Dream 2 is the Mazda 3, right?
No, actually, Steven, dream two is to protect the kids.
Love
Dream
that.
two is, yeah, to protect the kids, and dream three is to save the animals.
Heck yeah. Oh, we got the whole world.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is good
It's
stuff.
God's work right here.
Chino, this is so awesome to hear. You and I, we know each other through Sub 2, Owners Club, all the different things, but we've never really got the opportunity, you and I, to sit down and talk and see what each other are up to. It's more like, "Hey, dude, oh my gosh, so good to see you." Like, we follow each other, we message each other here and there on Instagram, and we're friends that way. But to be able to dive a little bit deeper into your purpose and what you're doing, it's such a beautiful thing to hear. You don't see people focusing on real estate in this way. And when there's purpose behind it, it makes the journey so much more enjoyable. And I've experienced that for myself. And even right now, like, I'm going back into more so just the flips type of thing. And it feels a bit empty because you're like, who am I really helping here? Who is this really targeting? Because there's that fine line of, I got to make money for myself and my family, but also, how do we incorporate purpose so much more? How would you recommend other people can start incorporating purpose for themselves? Because not everybody has the same background as you. So maybe that pull doesn't come to them quite as easily.
So I'm gonna say this, and it is the name of my nonprofit organization. That sorry for the plug.
No,
It
do
is
not
Plug it.
apologize, please.
it's called to see the unseen. See
Say
the unseen,
See the
right?
unseen.
Yeah, see the unseen. Even if you've never been homeless before, right? You drive down the street, you see a person right there asking for $1 or whatever it may be, whatever their sign says. Just, as simple as saying hi, like, wave at them. It makes a huge difference, right? I know this because it's the energy that you give them, right? When I would pack my sandwiches, my people would recognize me, right? I'm very shameful for saying, like, I don't recognize all of them because they change appearance, right,
Mm-hmm.
from time to time, right? Like, for instance, this gentleman, um, our first interaction was like, "Hey, bro, like, I'm just trying to get back to Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an artist." I'm like, "Bro, during that time, I didn't have all the resources. I only had housing, right? I didn't have the wraparound service yet." So I'm like, "Bro, like, I can hook you up with housing, when you're ready. I'm not gonna try to, push it on you. You know what I mean? Like, I also have affiliates, with some job placements and that kind of stuff." And he goes, "Well, like, I don't want to be in a sober living home." Like, "Well, it's not a sober living home, right? Because we don't have curfew, right?" Anyways, um, 1 month later, he recognized me, and I didn't recognize him. And as soon as he came up to me, I accidentally inhaled fentanyl coming from his breath, right? So that's another risk when you go out there, when you're serving the less fortunate, right? So I make my friends aware of that. Like, "Hey, when you guys do this with me, make sure that you understand that this, things could happen." That's why, like, when you bring your kids, make sure you're being very careful that they're not touching anyone, right? So when he came out to me and started talking to me again, and I did not recognize him because he looked day and night, right? all drugged up. He still, accepted my sandwich and water. And then one thing that he was wearing that clicked, it was his ring. It was his ring. And then right away I was like, bro, you still want to go back to Atlanta? He goes, yeah, man, I still want to do my own, to be an artist. Remember when I told you that that's what I came here to Vegas, to be an artist, but it didn't work out for me. I'm like, bro, I'm gonna be around. You let me know. You let me know when you're ready to get off the streets. We'll figure it out together. But we gotta get you cleaned up first, okay? And he looked at me, he nodded his head. I'm like, and I don't mean it like drugs. If you're not ready to let go of that, I'm not gonna push you. Well, I'll handhold you. Let's go to a rehab center together. I know some people, that you can trust. You can trust them because, like we have that relationship already. But hey, again, it's when you're ready. But I will always be here.
That is so beautiful.
Man, I'm about to cry.
I know.
Right
I'm
now.
like, oh my
wait a second.
gosh.
I've cried enough today.
That was emotional, man.
But that's what's beautiful. And I would encourage a lot of people to draw from that experience if you don't have your own. But imagine yourself in those shoes of being seen when nobody is seeing you. And the fact that you're taking the time, and this is why you will become, or you are so powerful, Chino, because when you can have so much heart and understand all the ways that you can acquire assets like real estate and have a vision to use those assets as a way to be leveraged and to help the less fortunate, that's very, very powerful. And I just commend you for how much you care, because that is how we change this world, one person at a time. Genuinely, every soul is worth that level of being seen. And I just thank you for that, Chino.
It's so pure from you too, Chino. Truly, the way that you're speaking about it, it comes from your heart, and it's very clear that it comes from your heart. I've talked to many other people that are involved in this industry, and they talk it. I hear the words, but I can't feel it and I can't see it. And with you, it's very apparent that this is something that means so much to you. It's so deeply ingrained in you and doing the right thing. And I want to thank you too. Yeah. I mean, it's the work you're doing is so phenomenal. This is so beautiful.
So let's bring it back to 2025, because now I know, Chino split, as you like to call it. Like, how can we be more helpful? How can folks consider doing this back in their own markets? So like what would be like a way to start so that they can see how this is a way to incorporate how they do business? Like, for example, I actually do have a group home in Tucson. I don't talk about it a lot, but it's a transition home, people who move out of prison, and it allows them an opportunity to get cleaned up. I don't run it at all. There's an operator who runs it. So all kudos to him. And he makes sure that these people get stabilized so that they can enter the communities. And if nobody's going to take responsibility to do something like that, how do we expect people to change and do better? So for you, from you, Chino, like what do you see as like a simple first step or simple few first steps so that anybody who wants to help in this way can maybe do it or invest in this way in their local markets?
So first things first is learn how to humanize conversations.
Yeah.
Right. How I do it personally is I legit spend time with them. Right. When you have the heart, time doesn't matter. Right. I understand we're all investors, we need to make money and whatnot. But if you're chasing the dollar, it'll never come to you. I always say this, right? And I also learned this from Pace, right? Purpose first, profit always follows. Right. Every time, whatever I do, I learn this from Pace. Right? People may not see it, but it's the concept and the value, right? That what he's been teaching me. Learn how to humanize conversations. You can use humanized conversations with your sellers, because now you're being empathetic. Now you're not looking at your watch, the time, like, hey, I need to reach my KPI, I need to hit my KPI. When you do this, there's no such thing as KPI. Your KPI is here. You have to connect with them. wholeheartedly, or otherwise it won't work.
Yeah. Amen. That's so true.
Amen.
That's so true. 1,000% true. And it really does start with, why are you in this? Who are you trying to serve? And are you in it for the right reasons? Mm-hmm.
I think so many people go into this investing, any of this stuff, with what am I going to get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's so easy to, like you just said, humanize the conversation. It's so easy to dehumanize the conversation
Mm-hmm.
when you're so business focused. Me and Ingrid, like, this is our time to catch up, basically, because we stay so busy and we keep ourselves so packed. And I find myself needing to take that step back often right now in our current investing journey, to be like, I need to get to know this person personally. I really need to know who they actually are as a person versus they're just another stepping stone, right? It's easy to be like, I can see the future. I know where I want to go. I see the vision, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, how do we take that step back and humanize everything, like you just said, so we can truly see what the real problems are, so we can solve real problems?
Yeah. And Chino, I know you had a meeting, and we're going to try to keep it short for you. So I want to be respectful of your time. Just real quick, you said that you were trying to what are your goals from an oh, do we still have Chino? Well, maybe he said thank you.
Maybe it
goodbye.
might be, he might be getting a phone call.
Oh, I see. He might be getting a phone
where they're
call.
like, where are you at? You're supposed to be at the Cheesecake Factory 3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And we're
You guys, please write down Chino's phone number. He will actually answer your calls before 7 a.m. I think he gets up as early as 4 a.m. I've never,
wow.
other than Pace, I've never met a more servant leader than Chino. And I think the way that you can help Chino, and I was trying to get to his goals this year, is to send him opportunities. So
Yeah.
you just heard him say, I want properties in B class neighborhoods or higher. They need to be properties that can house multiple people. So think like 4-bedroom counts or higher, likely with no HOA. He'll deal with a pool, but he'd rather not have a pool because it does come with some risk. And so if you guys have opportunities like that in Las Vegas or the surrounding area, know that that deal could be sold to Chino to go for a good purpose. So again, everybody write his number down. What's Chino's Instagram? It's probably just Chino Mante. Let me check real quick. But and DM him. He's really he makes himself so available. Honestly, even
Truly.
though I will say he tries to also protect his time. So if you guys want to reach out to him, he's at McDonald's before 7 a.m.
Wow.
taking your calls. So
it's so good. Yeah. And servant leader is an understatement.
Yeah.
You know, this has been so eye-opening. I didn't know this about Chino. You probably knew this about Chino.
I did know this
right?
about Chino.
And
yes.
I've never got the chance to get to know Chino. And I'm so grateful that we got to do this and make this a thing.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've lost Chino, and that's okay. We want to thank Chino so much for being on here. And this is how your own personal story, and even if it's not your personal story, it doesn't have, you don't have to be the person that has gone through that experience. You can empathize. This is what makes us human versus, wild animals. That literally we are geared in our brain to look at each other, and I can mirror your feelings and I can feel your feelings based on how we communicate to each other. And Chino's just taking that to a whole new level by using his experiences and paying it forward. And that's why I'm really proud that he's one of my good friends. Yeah. Cool.
So
well, guys,
beautiful.
I know we're going to cut it short this time around, but Chino did have an important 2 meetings with some behavioral health folks where he was actually trying to see how they can work together again to help the less fortunate out in Las Vegas. We will be back next Wednesday with Michelle. I don't know how to say her last name. I think it's Bichon. And Michelle is going to be teaching us all about RV parks. Ooh. So please put it in your calendar. Be with us tomorrow, or not tomorrow. I mean, next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Arizona time, as we talk to Michelle, and she's going to talk to us all about RV parks. In the meantime, send Chino your potential deals, and we'll see you then.
Without further ado, guys.
All right.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.